Okay, well, good morning, everyone. It's a little brisk out, but it is sunny, at least in beautiful DuPage County. So good morning. We'll go ahead and get the call the Transportation Committee of Friday, November 19th to order. I'll read a statement. As permitted by the Governor's Disaster Declaration of November 12th, 2021, the determination has been made that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent for this committee. To ensure that the meeting is as transparent as possible, we posted the meeting materials approximately 1 week in advance. We'll provide a recording of this meeting linked on our website, and we'll take all votes by roll call. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lindsay to call the roll.
Sure. Doug, do you want to put the slides up while I am getting there?
Are they not being viewed?
Not at the moment.
Oh, my apologies.
Sure.
Well, it says I'm sharing.
Oh, you're sharing the GoToWebinar. Yeah, there you go.
Ah, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay. I'll start with Chuck Abraham. Saw his name on the list. If you can put it in the chat that you are here, that will work. Darwin Burkhart, Kevin Carrier.
Present.
Is Jason Osborne here for Metra, representing Metra? Not yet. Leah Mooney for CTA.
Here.
John Donovan.
Good morning. Here.
Here.
I didn't hear. Did you say my name?
I did.
Here.
Can't.
We can't hear you now, Lindsay.
We definitely
Is
need
everyone
that
able
in.
to hear me?
We're able to hear you now.
Okay.
So,
Jessica Hector Sue.
Here.
John Paul Deepla.
Here.
Tom Kelso, I think he mentioned his voice wasn't doing so well, so if you could put in the chat that you are here. Heidi Lichtenberger for Kendall County. That's Christina Kopkowski.
Will County's here.
Thank you. And if I've called your name and you don't get a chance to say it, just put it in the chat or send a message to us. Eric Llewellyn.
Here.
Chris Hebert. Tara Orban.
Good morning. Here.
Thank you. Jessica Ortega.
Here.
Heidi Persad. Brian Carlson for IDOT. Tom Rickert.
I'm actually just promoting Tom right now.
Okay. Mayor Rockingham.
Here.
Great. Joe Schofer. Big Krishnamurthy. Chris Snyder.
Here.
P.S. Siraj. Scott Weber. Audrey Wennick. And Rocco Zucchero.
Present. Good morning.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming we have a quorum, Lindsay. Some might heard, some I didn't, and some were probably chatting. So, okay, wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2, agenda changes. And if you want to switch the screen, Doug, agenda changes and announcements. I'm not aware of any agenda changes. For announcements, I will let everybody know that DuPage County, our 20-year plan, our long-range transportation plan 20-year 2040 is currently out for a virtual public hearing on our website. It started last Friday and today's the last day. So if anybody wants to go out there and view it, it's also, you can provide comments directly in the link and also through the end of the month. End of the month being November 30th. And then our hope is to bring the long range plan to our board for adoption the first part of December. Are there any other announcements?
Chris, this is Jessica Hector Sue. I'll add that we have our strategic planning process is about to start next year as well. So we have a survey out right now that I strongly encourage you all to take. I'll drop the link in the chat, but it's a kind of policy survey related to transit. So I strongly encourage you to take it and to share it with others around you as well. And we'll be back with more updates next year on that process as well. Thanks, Chris.
Sure, of course. Thanks, Jessica. Anybody else? Okay. We will move on to approval of the minutes. So do I have a motion?
Motion by Rockingham.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I have a second?
Zucchero seconds.
Thank you, Rocco. Are there any comments, corrections, changes? Hearing, seeing none, I'll ask that Lindsay, you call the roll, right?
Okay, Chuck Abraham. Send us a message if you're unable to speak. Kevin Carrier.
Aye.
Jason Osborne.
Aye.
Thank you. Leah Mooney.
Aye.
Thank you. Doug Ferguson.
Aye.
Jessica Hector Sue.
Aye.
John Paul Deepla.
Aye.
Tom Kelso. Send a message. Heidi Lichtenberger. Christina Kopkowski.
Aye.
Thank you. Eric Llewellyn.
Aye.
Tara Orban.
Aye.
Jessica Ortega.
Aye.
Tom Rickert.
Aye.
Mayor Rockingham.
Aye.
Let's see. Chris Snyder.
Aye.
And Rocco Zucchero.
Yes.
Okay, and if I skipped your name because I didn't see that you were here, just let me know that what your vote is. Thank you.
This is Brian Carlson. I was late in joining. I'm here, and I vote aye.
Thank you.
This is Chris Hebert. Jack, I vote aye.
Thank you.
All right. Motion passes. We'll move on to committee reports. We'll turn it over to Aaron for updates from CMAP board and others.
Good morning. Nice to see you all on this brisk but sunny, I guess it's still November Friday. A few things that I wanted to cover, but I know that most of you are probably most interested in the Infrastructure and Jobs Act conversation. Well, it is later on the agenda. I think we'll get there pretty quickly here this morning. I'll just note that, one of the things that we want to do is start convening people around the 21, or Tim can correct me when he gives his presentation, competitive programs that are in the infrastructure bill. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to think about how well coordinated applications across our region could be highly competitive. And I think that that's probably a good role for the Transportation Committee and members of the MPO as well to play as we think about how those programs will roll out over the next few years here. But we're excited. I'm not going to get into the details, and we'll save that for Tim so I'm not stealing his thunder. A couple things that I just wanted to touch base on here so that you all are in the loop here. We are at the midpoint in our mobility recovery project. So when we realized we weren't going to be home for 2 weeks and go back to work, our concern was, oh my gosh, well, what happens if people's modes shift? And what does that mean for our expressway systems and our local roads and our transit system? So I've been speaking to a number of transportation stakeholders on our steering committee there to sort of say we're at the point of which we have sort of 3 large themes, I think, of recommendations that will be coming out. One related to, stabilizing and making sure that we have a strong transit system here in our region. One related to programming equity and environmental sustainability metrics into the way that we think about programming our transportation dollars. And the last bucket is really related to how we help our local communities and agencies operationalize some of the cool things that they've done during COVID, whether it's complete streets activities or sidewalks and bicycle and pedestrian implementation. I know that people have enjoyed sort of being outdoors, maybe not when it's 30 degrees and as it looks towards winter, but during the summer times, it's been a huge asset for many of our communities across the region. So I think too, just one other point on that project that we've been sharing with folks is that just based on some of our modeling, the last travel survey that we did showed that remote work or telework, as it's sort of old school called, it used to, that in our last travel survey was about 8 to 9% of the region sort of in general was teleworking. We're anticipating that that could increase and in different areas across our region to maybe 20%. And in some places where there's activity and corridors of activities where we think that might even be stronger and go as high as 35%. So I think that, that's one of the reasons we want to take a good hard look at what we might need to do to transition and pivot the way that we've been thinking about our transportation system previously and be prepared for those changes moving forward. So we're at the midpoint. We've got about the final product is due in October, and that'll align with the 2050 plan update as well. So it'll inform a lot of the work that we're doing in that regard. We also had a meeting of the Safety Resource Group. I know some of you were there too, but I'd be remiss if I didn't sort of highlight the fact that fatalities were up in 2020, 18%. So as far as how that impacts our region, and about 91 additional fatalities happened in 2020 than in the previous year. We're looking at the 2021 data. And so far, traffic fatalities are up even over last year. So we've got 66 additional deaths in comparison to 2020. So the work that this committee is doing, I think, is really important. And, it's not just our issue, it's a national issue here. But I think some of the things that we are looking at are important and will continue when we have that speed design and enforcement paper and safety papers ready. We'll bring those back to the committee here. But again, we do know that the increase in fatalities wasn't due to people driving more miles necessarily. We know that the condition and design of our roadways haven't changed. And so, I think the other important note is that serious injuries didn't increase as much as fatalities, which again sort of lends us to suspect that speed is a huge challenge to increasing fatalities here, or one of the foundational reasons why. So, again, it's pretty unacceptable to see, but it's a multifaceted challenge that really, again, continues to take all of our heads collectively to sort of think through how we might address this more comprehensively here. The other thing that I wanted to just highlight for the group here at our board meeting last month, we talked a little bit about accessibility and ADA transition planning. So at the MPO meeting a couple meetings ago, Federal Highways sort of mentioned that they were very concerned about the lack of Title II compliance across our region and the self-certification of us as the MPO here. So CMAP is putting together a program that will help support the region in achieving compliance with Title II across our region here. So, it's more than just transition plans, it's self-evaluation, and it's also thinking about how we can help support our communities really meet the letter of the law, which includes having an ADA coordinator, a grievance procedure, and that transition plan here. So our goal is we've been working pretty hard to scope out a program that helps in multiple ways, where we're bringing in experts to help sort of advise us on this process and this work, where we're also hiring staff. So you'll see we have a manager level staff posted right now to help us that will focus on this ADA transition plan program here. We're going to do this through education, through technical assistance, but also I think through collaborative workshopping across our peers across the region. So I think, again, we are hoping to work with a number of communities. It will not be a 2-year program. This really is sort of like an 8-year program to bring the nearly, I think it was 180 out of the 200 municipalities that are required to have them don't have them in our region. So again, data collection is going to be a part of this, communication, education. We look forward to partnering with many of you as you're working with your local agencies and making sure that we're talking about why this is so important. And we certainly don't want to risk losing federal funds because we aren't in compliance here. So I will be back with more information about that. I think my last note here too is just that, one of the other things that we've been looking at here is a transportation project analysis tool. So we're investigating the development of a tool that's capable of conducting cost benefit analysis as well as economic safety and equity impact analysis as well, with thinking about how we can better measure some of the impacts or improvements transportation infrastructure makes to low-income communities and communities of color across our region here that have been disadvantaged and disinvested in over the history of our region's development here. So again, we have been reaching out to the private sector to best understand what sort of tools and techniques are out there and how we might take some of those things and learn from them. But this will happen over the next year to 18 months or so. Our goal is to really begin to bring in different measures for our region so that we can better look at the transportation impacts on local communities here. So I'm happy to answer questions that the committee might have on any of those topics, but those I think are topics that you'll continue to hear from me and we'll continue to bring staff to talk to the Transportation Committee about in the future.
Thank you, Erin. Are there any questions for Erin? Erin, I don't know if you'll know this, and it's probably more appropriate for the Safety Resources Group. I was just curious. I know one of the meetings or one of the updates our Transportation Committee got was where it talked about speed, and I thought there was a discussion or national push to actually look at how speed limits are determined and to establish other means or mechanisms. Is that still at the federal level, or is that something that we're seeing any movement on?
Is Vicki on the call? I was going to see if we could maybe have her answer that question. But if she's not, we'll get that. I know that we were talking about speed limits at the last Safety Resource Working Group as well. So I think there is some action or interest in looking at speed and how those limits or, ceilings are a challenge, I think, and incent people, I'll say, to drive faster, right? But I know that the last working group, they looked at sort of design, including sort of guidance on self-enforcing streets here, but this limiting street speed policy was also a topic of discussion. I'm just not sure if there was some more follow-up steps.
Okay, that's fine. Anything else? Jason.
Yeah, follow up on that. The data does correspond with the legalization of recreational cannabis in the state, and I didn't know if it's too early to draw any conclusion on that.
Yeah, that is something that we've sort of heard anecdotally too. We haven't dug into that too much, but I know some of the partners like AAA have done research around sort of the coincidence of legalization of marijuana and sort of the fatalities. But it's not something that I think we've specifically brought to the group just yet.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none. So thank you very much, Erin.
Point that Vicki did join if you wanted to ask the question to her.
Yeah, Vicki. So Erin had given an update on the resources group you oversee, Safety Resources Group you're overseeing, and I just remember I think it was one of our transportation committees 2 or 3 ago where the discussion of obviously the speed and the impact it's having on fatalities, and whether there was a national push to look at how speed limits are set instead of the 85th percentile or anything like that. I'm just wondering if there's any movement on that. She's muted. Hold on. Okay.
No worries, Chris. We'll get back to you on that.
Exactly. No worries.
Yep.
That's fine. We'll move on to agenda item 5. So agenda item 5. So we'll ask that Russell
Okay.
give an update on the FY 2019-24 Transportation Improvement Program amendments. So I'll ask Russell if you can do that.
I'm here. Okay, included in your packet today is the memo detailing the 146 tip changes contained in the formal tip amendment 22-01 and the 104 tip changes contained in the administrative amendments 22-01.1 and 22-01.2. As seen in the memo, formal amendments resulted in an increase of $616 million in total project costs for all prior, current, and future years. In addition to the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, CRISA funds as we call them, identified in the memo, there are nearly $20 million in FTA Section 5310 funds that were added to the tip to reflect the RTA's recent call for projects. Additionally, about 2/3 of the total cost increase comes from the addition of nearly $400 million in NHPP funds for the I-190 reconstruction project, as that project continues to progress. Administrative amendments added $299 million to the tip, and as noted in the memo, CRISA funds contributed to that, along with the addition of $50 million in Illinois funds for the South Lake Front improvements, otherwise known as the Obama Presidential Center. The net change for total costs in the tip from all amendments resulted in $915 million being added to the tip in prior, current, and future years. As shown in the memo, while new projects and cost changes comprised most of the formal changes for administrative amendments, most of the changes were cost and schedule changes. The amendments, along with the memo, were posted on November 12th for committee and public review. At this time, we ask for approval of the formal tip amendment 22-01, and I will answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Russell. Are there any questions? Doesn't look like any, so I will entertain a motion to approve the tip amendment 2201. Just a motion. Thank you, Jason. As a second, Kevin, second?
Kevin County, yep.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. There were no comments, so I'll ask Lindsay to call the roll.
Okay, we'll start with Chuck Abraham. Send it in the chat. Kevin Carrier,
Aye.
Jason Osborne,
Aye.
Leah Mooney.
Aye.
Thank you. Doug Ferguson
Aye.
and Jessica Hector Sue.
Aye.
John Paul Deepla,
Aye.
Tom Kelso. You can put it in the chat or say. Heidi Lichtenberger. Not seeing it. Christina Kopkowski.
Aye.
Thank you. Eric Llewellyn.
Aye.
Chris Hebert.
Aye.
Thank you. Tara Orban.
Aye.
Jessica Ortega.
Aye.
Brian Carlson.
Aye.
Tom Rickert.
Aye.
Mayor Rockingham.
Aye.
Thank you. Vig Krishnamurthy. Saw had joined.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Snyder
Aye.
and Jeremy Glover in for MPC.
Aye.
Rocco Zucchero.
Aye.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion carries. So now we'll move on to item number 5.2, the semi-annual onto 2050 tip conformity analysis and tip amendment 2203. I'll ask Russell to give us an update, overview.
Okay, this amendment has been released for public comment already. It's included in your packet today as an informational item. As you know, the CMAP region is a non-attainment area for ozone, thus we are required to demonstrate that projects in the tip conform to the region's motor vehicle emissions budget through a regional emissions analysis of transportation projects in the tip. Specifically, projects in the tip subject to air quality analysis requirements demonstrate when modeled
that the region does not exceed our motor vehicles emissions budget. Of note, so you can see this in the memo. We demonstrate that on the last page. There are charts that show that we do not exceed our emissions budget. Of note, though, on the last page, you can also see we put for informational item both particulate matter and GHGs, and you can see that GHGs actually have increased a little bit on the mobile emissions side from when we started the Onto 2050 plan. The memo and the list of projects that are new or had changes are subject to a 30-day public comment period that ends on December 7th. If there are any questions, I can answer them at this time, but again, this is just informational and it is currently out for public comment.
Okay, thank you, Russell. Any questions? Again, this is information will be brought before us at our next committee, Russell, for a vote.
It'll be brought before for a recommendation to the NPO policy committee for the January meeting.
Okay. Okay. No questions? Not seeing any. So we'll move on to agenda item 6. Is Laura going to give the update?
I am, and hopefully I made it on. Hopefully I'm here. Happy Friday, everybody. So I am jumping in to give a quick update on this that is different from what we had originally intended to bring you today. We were excited and ready to let Lindsay Hollander start having a conversation with all of you on the financial plan. And then a small little thing about a federal bill passed and threw us all, as I'm sure many of you, we're all kind of our heads turned. We're like, oh, now we know actually what's going to happen. So we've put the financial plan presentation that we were going to bring you today on pause just to give us a moment to really look at that bill, see how it might impact the financial plan. There is a possibility we may need to keep moving forward as we had anticipated, depending on how quickly we can get guidance on what that plan was going to do to the bill will do to the financial plan. So bear with us as we are all trying to be flexible as Congress move forward on that. But again, a good problem to have as we move forward that we actually have that bill. So anticipate that we'll be talking to you soon about the financial plan results that Lindsay will bring to this. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we're still moving forward. Staff is neck deep in each of their project components to put the update together. So we're really spending a lot of time right now on the travel model data development. Again, we gave you a presentation about where we are on the socioeconomic forecast and some of the initial results of that. But again, feel like we'll have more to share with this group in January. The system performance report, the performance targets, those are all moving forward. The regionally significant projects have been submitted. Staff has talked to many of you that had to submit for that. And going through the reevaluation process. We hope to finalize the reevaluation of the RSPs early in 22, because that then impacts the conformity analysis that needs to get completed as we've kind of moved through the spaces to get to a final plan update. We're still on target to do additional stakeholder outreach early spring of 22. Again, and leading up to that, again, is having conversations with you and the MPO as we start to learn different pieces of information, finally culminating in June of 22 to go out to a full public comment on the update with completion by October. So we're moving through each of these pieces. And again, we hope to probably come to almost every TC meeting with some sort of update as we're getting results of each of these pieces as we move along. So anticipate that you'll be hearing from us in most of these meetings as we get more information. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Laura. Are there any questions from Laura? Seeing none, hearing none. So, okay. Well, thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. So now we'll move on to agenda item 7, which are the 2022 meeting dates. They're there before you, and we're looking for an approval of those dates, right?
That's correct. So,
go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say, we put together these dates based upon IDOT's letting schedule, the federal approval process, in addition to the plan update as well. So Included for your consideration today are the 2022 meeting dates for the Transportation Committee.
Rickert move.
Thank you, Tom.
Second by Orban.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, we'll ask Lindsay to call the roll.
Okay, we'll start with Chuck Abraham and wait for a chat from him. Kevin Carrier,
Aye.
Jason Osborne,
Aye.
Leah Mooney,
Aye.
Doug Ferguson,
Aye.
Jessica Hector Sue,
Aye.
John Paul Deepla,
Aye.
Tom Kelso, if you can put your answer in the chat, and Heidi Lichtenberger, you're voting for Kendall. Christina Kopkowski,
Aye.
Eric Llewellyn,
Aye.
Chris Hebert,
Aye.
Sarah Orban,
Aye.
Jessica Ortega,
Aye.
Brian Carlson,
Aye.
Tom Rickert,
Aye.
Mayor Rockingham,
Aye.
Big Krishnamurthy,
Aye.
Chris Snyder,
Aye.
Jeremy Glover,
Aye.
and Rocco Zucchero.
Yes.
Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you. So mark your calendars, everyone, for next year. So with that, we'll move on to agenda item 8, the reason what we've been waiting to hear from Tim. So we'll see how much money is going to flow to the counties. So Tim, if you want to give an update.
I will, yes. Hello and good morning, everyone. So for this morning's update, as you all know, we're going to be talking about the newly passed and signed Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act. It's been a long time coming here. If you could turn to the next slide, Doug. So the bill provides an additional or above current baseline spending of $550 billion over the next 5 years. It also reauthorizes surface transportation programs from 2022 to 2026. So of that funding, nearly half of it, of that new spending goes to U.S. Department of Transportation, nearly doubling the department's total budget authority. As you can see from that chart below on the right, the total contract authority for the Highway Trust Fund is at $383 billion. 313 of that is for highways and nearly 70 for the mass transit account. One thing I do want to note with that chart and just with the bill overall, that's a little bit different about this bill, that there's 3 types of funding. So there's Highway Trust Fund, there's guaranteed or advanced appropriations, and then there's general fund authorizations there on the right. So those are authorized amounts, but still need to be funded during the appropriations process. And now next slide. I'm going to be going through all of the formula programs here. So I'll start with the ones that CMAP administers. So I just want to note before I do that these estimates were provided by the U.S. Department of Transportation to Congress following the Senate passage of the IIJA. So nothing had changed from there to the House passage. So this is what we're going off of as we prepare. So the actual apportionments to states and within Illinois may change as these, depending on the 2020 census results and how those factor into this. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, but these are the estimates we have to go off of right now as we prepare. So as you can see here, for the region's core programs that CMAP administers, there is an estimated increase of 32% for metropolitan planning and surface transportation funding over the life of the bill, as well as 10% for CMAC. And then not listed here separately, there's a 76% increase annually for the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is a set aside of STPG there. So you could see on the right, Illinois is estimated to see a roughly 8% increases in this funding annually across each program over the life of this bill, so to 2026. The next slide, Doug. On this slide, we have the remaining highway formula programs before the IIJA was passed. So going from top to bottom, there is an annual estimated increase in national funding for the National Highway Performance Program of 27% from FAST levels to 2026. There's an increase of 34% during the same period for the Highway Safety Improvement Program. Both the National Highway Freight Program and the Railway Highway Crossing Program remain steady or close to the annual levels that they had under the FAST Act. Similarly, the rail crossing funding remained steady for Illinois, as did the NHPP funding. Both safety and freight formula funding in Illinois is estimated to increase by 9% over the life of the bill. And now with the next slide, I will talk about the new programs, the new formula programs that we should be getting ready for. So the carbon reduction program, that would provide $6.4 billion to states. It also includes a 65% sub-allocation based on population, so about 10% more than STBG. That would invest in projects that support a reduction in transportation emissions, such as public transportation or public transit, freight mitigation, congestion pricing infrastructure, and other projects. So Illinois is estimated to receive $43 million of that funding annually, beginning in FY 2022. The PROTECT program, the next one there, will provide $7.3 billion to states for resilient infrastructure projects that incorporate natural infrastructure, flood protection, and other improvements related to highway projects. MPOs like CMAP are eligible to compete for resilience planning grants with the competitive portion of this program. And so that funding can be used to develop a resilience improvement plan covered at 100% by the federal government. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that. Illinois is estimated to receive $49 million of this funding annually beginning in FY 2022. Next up, the Bridge Investment Program would provide $27.5 billion in formula funding to states for bridge repair, replacement, rehab, construction. This includes a 15% formula set aside for off-system local bridges. Of this funding, Illinois is estimated to receive $274 million annually beginning in FY 22. And then last one on here, the electric vehicle program would provide $5 billion in formula funding for states for the deployment of EV charging infrastructure. And Illinois is estimated to receive roughly $29 million beginning in FY 22. Now with the next slide, I will talk about transit and passenger rail impact. So large increases here, annual increases from FAST Act levels of 50% for transit and 144% for passenger rail. And so that's between authorized amounts as well as advanced appropriations over the life of the bill. Illinois is estimated to receive in formula transit funding $4.5 billion over the life of the bill. And the Amtrak National Network is expected to receive $28.65 billion over that same period. So quite a bit of funding there and quite a bit of an increase. Next, I'll just talk about the overall Illinois impact from everything I've just talked about on the next slide. Yeah. So not including the bridge and EV formula numbers, Illinois is estimated to see an overall increase of 30% in highway formula dollars for a total of $11.3 billion for the entire bill. So the $11.3 billion includes the bridge and EV numbers. And then transit will see an estimated increase of 53%. And now I'm just going to talk through different highlights of the bill, some of the competitive programs we're going to be looking out for that we've already talked to the committee about, but now that it's passed, we'll talk about that and then some of the programmatic changes to current programs. So in addition to the new PROTECT program that was mentioned in the prior slide, the bill provides new opportunities to reduce congestion and improve resilience. There's a new congestion relief program that we have mentioned. It was a priority for Senator Duckworth and the rest of our congressional delegation. and would provide support to regions to advance multimodal solutions to congestion, including funding for congestion management systems, congestion pricing infrastructure, and other congestion reduction incentive related programs. There's also a new Healthy Streets program for projects that improve resilience by focusing on projects that would mitigate urban heat islands, improve air quality, and reduce stormwater runoff. The bill also expands the program purpose of the NHPP to increase the resiliency of the NHS and allow states to use up to 15% of funds for protective resiliency features. And the next slide, I'm going to just briefly talk about EVs here and alternative fuels. So in addition to the new EV formula program, there's a new competitive alternative fuels corridor program that also supports EV charging, in addition to a few others that you see there, like hydrogen fuel. That provides competitive funding to support state and local governments with this alternative charging and fueling infrastructure. The bill also expands the surface transportation program eligibility to include electric vehicle charging as well. Now I'm going to turn to equitable transportation parts of the bill. Yeah, there we go. The bill includes $1 billion for a Reconnecting Communities pilot program for projects around existing highways that were built, through neighborhoods and have created a barrier to mobility and economic development. It also creates a new transportation access pilot program that MPOs are eligible for. This is something that's in our federal agenda, so we will be keeping a close eye on this. That program works with states and regions on measuring the impact of transportation, the impact that transportation investments may have on connecting people to healthcare, childcare, education, jobs, other essential services. And then I just wanted to note that for the first time, the bill authorizes the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity program, which you'll know as the Tiger program when it was created in 2009. So this is the first time that a reauthorization bill actually authorizes that program versus it just being in the appropriations process. So it provides some stability to that program. The current administration has prioritized projects that could demonstrate improvements to racial equity in this most recent round of RAISE grants, and we expect that to continue in the coming rounds. And now I'll turn to transit and mobility, another major priority for our congressional delegation and the region, as we all know, is the ASAP program, which was included in the bill. Very exciting. This will provide funding for legacy rail systems like those here in northeastern Illinois. There's also a new smart mobility demonstration grant to conduct demonstration projects that advance smart city and community technologies and systems to improve transportation efficiency and safety. This could include things such as smart technology traffic signals. The bill nearly doubles competitive funding for the Capital Investment Grant Program to $23 billion over those 5 years. Once again, that's between general fund authorizations and advanced appropriations. Under the IIJA, this program will now require applicants to show they have or will make progress toward meeting performance targets for asset management. The bill also makes micro mobility projects explicitly eligible under the CMAQ program as well. And now I will touch upon freight, passenger, and multimodal infrastructure. So in this area, there's a few new changes to touch upon. There's a new railroad crossing elimination program to states, regions, and local governments to eliminate or separate highway rail grade crossings frequently blocked by freight activity. There's also a new program for mega projects or projects of national significance, which has plenty of multimodal eligibility that you can see there. This is in addition to the InfraGrant program, which is not on this slide, but I just wanted to note, because this was in our federal agenda as well. The InfraGrant program had its multimodal cap lifted from 11% of funding over the life of the bill for FAST to now 30% annually. So a pretty big increase for multimodal eligibility in the infra grant program. So 2 very large programs there for multimodal infrastructure. The bill also expands intercity passenger rail eligibility, allowing for the replacement or repair of infrastructure to achieve a state of good repair and improve performance. And then next slide, I'm going to talk about safety, a few of the safety highlights. There's a creation, the IIJA created 2 new competitive programs. The first here is the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, which will support local Vision Zero efforts. Regions and local governments are also eligible to apply for the deployment and implementation of safety action plans. There's a new active transportation program that will fund safe and connective active transportation networks. And then 2 programmatic changes I wanted to mention will require states to use 15% of highway safety funds to address the safety of vulnerable road users in the event that total annual fatalities of those users represent at least 15% of total annual crash fatalities in the state. So that's not up to 15%, they must use 15% of that funding. It also requires states to create a vulnerable road user assessment. Similarly, TAP is expanded to include safety projects for vulnerable road users. And then the last slide I have here is just on funding of the bill. I'll wrap up with this slide. The passage of the IIJA has continued the tradition of relying on general fund transfers without an increase or indexing of the federal motor fuel tax. However, there is a new national motor vehicle per mile user fee pilot, quite a long name there, that will test a per mile user fee with a goal of including volunteer participants from all 50 states. And I don't have it here explicitly mentioned on the slide, but this also covers commercial vehicle as well as passenger vehicles. Next, we have the Surface Transportation Alternatives Program, which will now be known as the Strategic Innovation for Revenue Collection Program. One of the highlights here is that it expands eligibility to MPOs and local governments. And then the last one, here's a new toll credit exchange pilot, which will pick 10 states to participate and exchange toll credits to cover the non-federal share of transportation projects. So I will put my email in the chat, or we could put my email in the chat. I know we also we're hopefully going to send around the PDF of this just so you have it for reference. And this presentation reflects the longer update that was in this week's CMAP weekly update newsletter, so you can check more of this information out there. As Aaron said, in the coming months, we'll continue to unpack this bill and put a spotlight on these competitive programs as they're being rolled out. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about these programs, especially as we as a region start thinking about these projects and how we can be competitive for them, especially the new ones. We just want to make sure we're taking full advantage of the funding in this bill. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tim. Just a couple questions from me, and then I'll open up to the group. I believe it was the first slide. I was just curious when we saw things at the national level at the 20–30%, and then we saw Illinois at under 10 for many of the programs. If ships rise and sink at the same level, why wouldn't that be, parity? Why the national level of fund increased 32% in Illinois, it's only went up 8%?
Yeah, good question. So I'm still digging into that. I had the same exact thought after, especially once I had the numbers the way I did. I believe it's just due to the different formulas of those programs, but I need to dig into that a bit deeper.
Okay. Also, when will we begin to see the money flow? If I recall, the council mayor's STP call is already here in January will be the call. Will we be seeing marks increase for the 5-year at that point?
I mean, I'm not going to speculate. I wouldn't want to speculate on that just because it's up to, you know, USDOT and then FHWA, and then IDOT at that point. And I have not seen any update on that just yet either.
Okay.
On the timing.
Speaking of IDOT, I'll throw this out there. Obviously, we have Rebuild Illinois, which was good. So I presume we have would have the funding to match this significant increase in federal dollars to the region, or I'll leave that to the appropriate IDOT folks to let us know. And the ability to kind of, you know, absorb that program within Rebuild Illinois. Always interested to see how that is going to roll at the state level, as well as how the counties and local agencies can similarly jump on some of those initiatives. So I don't know if anybody's from IDOT's available, looking at the numbers, how that's going to affect your program or delivery.
Well, this is Brian. I'm not going to comment on the district level because the district gets program targets from the central office. So the distribution to the districts and appropriation levels and everything would need to be addressed by central office.
Okay. Okay.
Chris, it's certainly, I was just going to say, it's certainly questions that we have as well. So as we get more details from IDOT, you know, we certainly want to coordinate on the competitive programs as well as the, you know, when we should be expecting some of these revenues or programming authority to come through. But I think given the time frame, the obligation limitation right now of the old bill still being in effect and then having to get appropriations in the new state fiscal year will put us in some sort of like, we got to shuffle those things and get them in the right order just at first here. So once we have more details, we'll certainly share.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one. The mentioning of the HSIP vulnerable road user assessment and then the expanded TAP eligibility. Is vulnerable road users just another way to say bicyclists and pedestrians?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so it really is just non-motorists. So it also includes motorcyclists as well. So it's non-motorists.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, that was barking on my end, but I did have a question. So thanks there. I was wondering with the STP, STBG block grant expanding, is there any thought of expanding the competitive program? And I realize that this is probably too early to ask that question, so you can just tell me that, but just throwing that out there.
Leah, is your question expanding? Sorry to jump in, Tim. Question about expanding the STP shared fund?
That's it. Yep, the shared fund.
So the formula that we have with the councils of mayors is that program gets 15% of the STPBG. So with any growth in those dollars, that would, you know, it would still get 15% at this point in time. We haven't talked about changing that formula, but the pot would be larger, just given the fact that the bill of that pot is larger.
So there isn't talk though yet about changing the share based on a growth in overall resources. Okay.
No. Good question though.
Any other questions for Tim? None? There's a lot of reading you must have done.
Yeah, it's a big bill, and this is just the transportation section, so quite a bit more in there.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but hey, Chris, sorry, this is Rocco. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion. I would, you know, is what I'm hearing, right? I just want to make sure that we, you know, as a region, I've been at this for a little while, that we think about this collectively and take advantage of all the opportunities afforded to us. Personal opinion, I think we've maybe missed some opportunities in the past. So hopefully we could really just think collectively on on how to take advantage of this. I mean, Chris, I think you said it right off the bat. It's like, why we get 8% nationally, there's 32%. Let's, get that back. I don't want to see us miss the opportunities because we're not collaborating the right way.
If I may, Chris, Rocco, I think you make some good points here, and I think that is exactly what we hope to utilize this forum for moving forward. I know that there's a lot of stuff just process oriented that has to get, the TIP approvals and amendments and all of that sort of stuff that we always do, but I do think that we'll want to take a more laser focused approach to kicking around sort of where are these funds going, what are they doing, how can we best, again, not miss some opportunities here. So I'll be talking with many of you, I think, about sort of, I'd love to get your input on what has been missed in the past and what we should really keep our eye focused on here and how CMAP can help.
And can I throw one other thing? And truly accelerating the process. Right. And I think that's incumbent upon all of us. We don't take federal funds, but I know we partnered with many other agencies on projects to try to figure out how to get the most out of it. So yeah, process and roll through it.
Yeah, that's a reoccurring comment, Rocco, that many of us share at the at the local agency as well, and we've made that known to this group and in our partner agencies. To that point, it sounds like a lot of new grant programs that you mentioned there at the end, Tim, and several of those look like that they are potentially competitive at a regional level as opposed to an agency level, especially some of those safety options or vulnerable users and stuff like that. As we roll out our resource group and look at things, be good to do things at a regional level to be more competitive than possibly necessarily just at the specific agency and project level. Okay.
I would add that Tim's presentation has been posted to the Transportation Committee's webpage with all the materials. So if you're interested in getting a copy of that, that's where it's at.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. What's that?
Just saying thank you for that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any other questions for Tim? Good summary, Tim. I've been looking for this for a while. We kept getting asked at the local level, news reporters calling me and others, what's DuPage County share? And I have to say, well, it's a state share that gets, allocated, sub-allocated. So, but this is good information to have. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'd also be interested in.
Go ahead, Tara.
Just also interested, I know that, some other components of the bill, like such as broadband or water infrastructure, it's not transportation money, but it is certainly within our, within our roadway right of way, in, looking for opportunities to collaborate with local agencies on that. I'd be interested in, hearing more about that as well, because it certainly does impact, it's certainly something that all of us here, right, Chris, that we're going to be helping coordinate as those initiatives move forward.
Yeah, and I would just say that that's something that as I keep unpacking the bill and we keep unpacking it, especially with our water work that we do at CMAP, we're going to be doing updates similar to that across this bill. And I would also say if the Build Back Better bill passes, we'll do analysis on that as well, like we did with the rescue plan. So we're gonna keep looking at all of this funding to try to leverage as much of it as we can for the region.
Great. Leah, did you have a question earlier? No.
Oh, I was just going to say, in the interest of kind of thinking through how to leverage as much as we can for our region, some of the increases to the capital investment grant program combined with some of the changes that they're talking about at a policy level, really for how FTA may be revisiting some of their guidance, could help us bring more of that New Start resource to that project, which would help us then have to leverage less local resources or fewer local resources to pay for that. So those are the kinds of things where I think if we're as Aaron said, if we're strategic about this and thinking about how we can sort of best benefit our overall region, I think that would be really great to work together on that.
Good. Any other comments?
Amen.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, Tim, and thank you everybody for the comments, and look forward to hear more updates going forward. So under item number 9, any other business? Is there any other business to be brought before the committee?
I had one other thing in the chat that I forgot to say in announcements, and sorry, I'm kind of chatty today, but the bypass for the Red Purple Modernization Phase 1 program opened this morning. So huge milestone and super exciting.
Great. Anything else? No? Okay. Public comment. Do we have anybody that submitted public comment in advance, or then I guess we'd open up to anybody online, if you will?
Chris, we didn't receive any public comments in advance. If anybody in the attendees wishes to make a public comment, please raise your hand and staff will unmute you.
No hands?
None yet. It's a long list. Not seeing any.
None? Okay. All right. Then moving on to item 11, next meeting. So the next meeting of this committee will be on December 17th, a month from now. So with that, so get that in your calendars. So with that, item number 12, unless seeing no other business before the committee, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Everybody have a nice Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time.
You too.
Family.